All right, now what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to make this really fun little cornbread dressing, and since we're in Texas, we're going to put a fun little Southwest feel on it. So what I have is I got a bunch of vegetables that I've already cut, and you'll see that as we go into the pan, you'll see that I put a fun little rustic cut on there, not little cuts, because the way I grew up is there was chunks of onion, there was chunks of celery in there. When you were eating at the Thanksgiving table, you got those little bites of vegetables along with the cornbread. You're going to do a half a pound of butter. This will be enough to feed probably 8 to 10 people. But you know, cornbread dressing is a nice, rich, hearty side. And even though that you'll see that there's a fun little Southwest twist on here with some cool spices and some fresh cilantro and some chorizo, it seems like it's outside of the box, but it'll go very well with your traditional or your conventional Thanksgiving dishes or sides or accoutrement with the rest of the meal. All right, so what we're going to do now is, now that we got the butter nice and hot, as we go to the saute pan, I'm going to introduce the ingredients. All right, first off, what we have is we got some red onions. You can use white onion or yellow onion if you want to. I'm using red because it's more of a Southwest Texas feel. So we're going to add our onions. And of course, I'm not the biggest celery fan, but of course you got to have celery in your Thanksgiving dressing. All the measurements will be posted on the recipe while you're watching this, but the more veggies the better. It's just going to give you some texture. Now what we have is, this is where it gets fun and full flavored. We got some good little red chilies, which these don't really have a lot of heat. You want to watch them because depending on the time of the year, they might have a little more heat than usual, but this brings nice color to the dish and also a good little sweetness. We're going to add that. We got jalapenos. This is what we're going to get our heat from, or where we're going to get our heat from. You'll see that I didn't take the seeds out because we want that flavor. We want that little burst of heat. Jalapenos. And then I got poblanos. Poblanos are one of my favorite peppers. Since I've lived in Texas, man, I've really fallen in love with poblanos. I haven't had a lot of experience with them, but they have a nice little mild heat to them, but it doesn't blow you away. It's got a really cool earthy flavor. And then this is something that you might not be able to get your hands on this time of year, but if you can, why not? I found some fresh corn that looked really good, so we're going to put some fresh corn in there, but by no means use a frozen corn. If you can't find fresh corn, don't use it. It's just something that I had around the luxury of being able to shop at Fresh every day. I saw it and I got it. So if you shop here every day, hey, who knows what you'll find. So now that we got all our goodies in here, we just want to keep your heat on high and cook this down. You want to cook it down fast and real hot so you really develop that good flavor. Get some sear and some saute on there on your veggies. Let your butter brown up a little bit. That's where really great flavor is going to come from. We're going to go ahead and put a little seasoning on it. We're not going to get carried away because we got some heat in there, so we want to see how that goes or how that comes together before we put a final seasoning on there. Now you'll see that our veggies are developing a little bit of color. You'll see that the onion becomes a little more iridescent. This is our flavor developed. So next step is I got some great chorizo that we make here at Fresh. This is another one of those little, gives it a fun little Southwest feel. And then of course, who doesn't like fresh garlic? Fresh chopped garlic. Don't use that stuff in the jar. Go get some fresh garlic. That makes it 10 times better. That stuff in the jar is for the birds. All right, so let's mix this up. That chorizo sausage I had already cooked down. I just cooked it down like you would a bulk breakfast sausage. And the only reason I cooked it before was just to save me a little time when I'm going to put it together. But if you feel like starting off and cooking the sausage before you do everything else, that's fine. We got fresh cilantro. Don't use the dried stuff, and you know what I always say, cut it last minute. You don't have to cut it, break it down too much. You need a mixing bowl. There we go. Some fresh cilantro. Hey, the more the merrier, right? So let's put a little to the side real quick. We got our cornbread. And what I did was I just baked the sheet pan of cornbread like you would, Jiffy or whatever cornbread you like. Let it cool off. Once I could handle it, I took it out of whatever I cooked it in, which I used a sheet pan, chopped it up in cubes, put it in the sheet pan, or put it back on a sheet pan, put it in the oven, and toast it off. What that does is once you add all your goodies in there, that helps keep the consistency of the texture of a nice little crunchy crouton. Pour that in there. Look how pretty that is. Even if it doesn't taste good, it just looks good, huh? We're going to mix that up really well. So, the butter that I started with, that's going to bring us the richness. And then right here what I have is I have a little chicken stock. And since I used corn, I just took the corn on the cobs, threw it in there just to get a little bit of more flavor in there. And then I put a squeeze of one whole orange. But chicken stock works fine. We're going to mix this up. That chicken stock, you don't want to drown it in there. You just want it to give that little bit of moisture. Man, that's so pretty. All right, we want to taste it. Touch of salt. Put a touch of pepper. Just a little bit more chicken stock. There we go. That's the right consistency. One more little touch. I got a lime. We got a little zester here. I couldn't live in a kitchen without a zester. So we take a little bit of lime zest. You just want the green. You don't want to get into that pith. So the zester has real fine blades on it where it just pulls the green off. Once you get into that white, it gets real bitter. That's a good little tidbit to remember. So, I'm going to cut this in half, squeeze half of, hey, what the heck, let's do a whole lime. And again, don't get thrown off with these wacky flavors and then what you're planning on serving with the cranberry sauce and your giblet gravy. Man, this will be perfect with all that good stuff. All right, let's taste it. Perfect. All right, so now all you need is whatever pan or dish you're going to cook it in. I got me a little oven-safe bowl here. I'm going to take a touch of butter, wipe the bottom, wipe the sides. And then we're just going to scoop it in there. Now, this is where we kind of get into the interesting family twist. You know, some people like boiling eggs and chopping up boiled eggs and throwing it in there. Some people put an egg in their actual mix, kind of like a custard, so it helps bind it together. If you want to add an egg in here, feel free. I don't have an egg in here. All I have is butter and the chicken stock, and kind of the chicken stock meets corn stock. But if you like putting an egg in there, it's not going to mess anything up. All it's going to do is make it a little richer, and it will be bound together a little bit more. All right, now all we got to do is go in the oven. So there we go. We're going to go in the oven. That'll probably take about 15-20 minutes at 350 degrees. We'll probably let it get nice and golden brown on the outside, pull it out, and we're ready to eat. So we'll go in the oven. All right, here we go. Southwest cornbread dressing. Dab a little butter on there. Butter does make it better, right? There we go. And then a little fresh cilantro. There we go. Fun little twist on a Thanksgiving meal. Southwestern cornbread dressing. I like getting in the middle of it before we serve it. Can't go wrong with that. That's good stuff.